All right, so we'll call to order the Oxbridge Building Committee meeting, regular meeting, October 17th. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes of October 3rd. Any comments, additions, deletions?
On that, Duke, I received a couple clarifications from Nick on,
Right,
it should be net zero, I think I put net neutral.
okay.
And Tomasetti is spelling her name, and I inadvertently put Ms. Ronco instead of Mr., so I'll make those three. But any others?
I'm feeling, I think you know other people there that are in the meeting. I know you know ex officio members, but
Right.
if you're putting public, I was here too.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
I'm smart credit, Rusty, that's all it is. Smart credit.
I will note that, Dave.
But again, if you're not putting people outside the committee, then don't worry about it.
No, I put everyone, actually.
Good. So other than those updates that were just mentioned, approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second? John, thank you. We move on, review and discussion of the work to date for the schematic design phase of the project. Diane?
Yes, so we met 2 weeks ago after our full committee meeting. We had a schematic design working group meeting. It was a really productive meeting. I sent out an email to the committee about what was covered at the meeting. Once again, the slides and the meeting minutes for that meeting are posted on the Oxbridge website, and there's a lot of material in that meeting, so I definitely recommend that everybody goes and takes a look and reads through what we covered. And Amy Samuelson did a good job of itemizing the direction given to the to SLAM and to their engineers. Just to summarize once again, we discussed MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, and we decided on a direction with a VRV, which is a variable refrigerant volume system, along with perimeter heating. That's more efficient than the variable air volume. Again, that's in the notes and probably worth going through. We discussed natural gas as an energy source for the project and discussed the possibility of bringing natural gas to the site. And we had some conversations about geothermal as well as photovoltaics. I'll talk about the geothermal a little bit later in the meeting, but I think the general direction is that the committee would like to proceed with photovoltaics and explore putting as many as possible on the roof. That was one thing that they've been working on, is accommodating photovoltaics on the roof design. Then following up that meeting, we had a call this past week. There's a lot of decisions made, a lot of follow-up needed, so we thought it was beneficial to have an interim discussion this past week. Again, the slides from that are posted on the website, including some slides of the model that they've been working on, which is, they have this model that you can sort of fly through, and they took a bunch of still pictures, and that's posted. That's definitely worth taking a look at, as well as updated drawings from their following up items from the previous meeting. In particular, what was covered at that meeting. Let me see if I can just find my notes here. That phone call, rather, which they called 3.5. They followed up, again, discussions with designing of the roof in order to accommodate more photovoltaic, more exterior design. There were some issues about proximity of the building to the property line along the open space. That it was kind of tight at one point. They sort of called it a pinch point. They went back and did some adjustments to the floor plan in order to make more space there to make the building more easily constructed and more serviceable. So that was very productive. We're going to meet again today, immediately after this meeting. And I think we're going to see, for the most part, a final look at the schematic design. I think everything's really settling into place. What we expect to discuss at the meeting today are updated site and civil plans, updated floor plans, exterior elevations, and interior and exterior renderings. So they expect from us there some final comments on the building design so that it can then document the schematic design for pricing purposes. So that was the meetings. We've also sort of finalized the schedule. I had emailed Amy to just kind of confirm when we're going to expect everything from them at the end of this process. I can put an email together for the committee so everybody knows what to expect. But so today we're having a meeting, as I said, our last schematic design working group meeting. If there are any big issues that come out of that, we may have another phone call to work the final details out. October 24th, we expect the schematic package from SLAM. So they'll be delivering both a booklet and a drawing set that will document where the design is for the purposes of pricing. And then they will actually present that material to us. Well, so then that material will go out to estimating. Both SLAM and O&G are going to put together estimates on that schematic design package. And we will receive that, let me just make sure I get this right, we'll receive that on November 14th. There's SLAM, O&G is going to host a meeting between them and SLAM and sort of work out the details of the differences between those estimates. And then SLAM will give us a presentation on November 21st of the final schematic design package, which will include design as well as pricing. And if everybody can put on their calendars, that meeting is going to be maybe an hour and a half and 2 hours. It's going to be quite an extensive meeting where SLAM's going to give a full presentation on the schematic design. So again, that's November 21st, 7:30. Mark your calendars to stay a little bit longer
So
for
one
that
more time, it was November.
day. This is November 21st.
7:30 a.m.
7:30 a.m. They'll be
Okay.
here, but they expect it'll be an hour and a half to 2 hours.
And November 14th is not a meeting, but we will be receiving the pricing and estimating package.
Correct.
Okay.
And sort of how that actually happens, we need to resolve that in terms of whether we get a hard copy or it's electronic, and whether all the building committee members want access to that. We can sort of work out those details.
And Diane, on the 21st, that meeting will be public?
It will be public, yes. Yeah.
And do you have any concerns based on all the meetings that you've had that you would want to bring to our attention or have the committee focus on in particular based on what you're seeing that could be a decision or an issue that we should ponder, or do you think everything seems to be in good shape?
I think everything seems to be in good shape. I could jump, there's a item on the agenda which is geothermal that I could discuss right now. That was one issue that I
Yep.
I sent a memo of sorts out to the committee, and I thought that merited a little more attention because that was a big decision, and I think we probably should put it to the committee to vote on that. I had done a little bit of research and spent some time. Dave Cravenzola was kind enough to do a little bit of research as well. I also spoke with Eric Romeo at SLAM's MEP, Mechanical and Electrical Plumbing Engineer office, and just got a little more information. I think with regard to the use of geothermal on the site, well, first of all, with regard to, I know there are a lot of town concerns about past problems with geothermal, and addressing that, I think in this, if we were to use geothermal here, we would use a closed loop system rather than an open loop system, which seems to have been the source of most of the problems in town. But that aside, in order to really fully understand geothermal for the site, we need to do a bore test, which costs about $15,000, and that would tell us the geothermal site conditions, and that would really tell us how deep the bores need to be, how many bores there need to be. Although there is kind of an estimated range, and the engineers estimated approximately 100 bores would be needed. It's somewhere from 80 to 120, so if we just take the middle point of 100, and they took a look at the site, the bores need to be 20 feet apart from one another. There were two options then. One is where you create two different fields, and another is where you build the field underneath where the existing school is. Looking pretty closely at both options, they're both really disruptive in terms of this sort of tight scheduling of construction that we have. The option of building where the existing school is would cause us to have to set up temporary chiller and boiler system while the school was for the start of the school, which is a very expensive and complicated endeavor. So basically, the field wouldn't be ready when the school was ready. And then other concerns were that it would just extend the length of the construction, because the feasibility of trying to put this bore field in during this kind of very tight construction schedule we've had set up, it's really, really challenging. If the property were bigger and there was a field that was going to be left untouched, I think it would be much more feasible. It gives some consideration to. I think we're also just finding it's a system that's not 100% proven itself, and so there's a little bit of concern, but I think for the most part, I think it's the monetary issue, that it's a very expensive system to put in, and especially compared to gas, natural gas, and it seems quite feasible we're going to be able to bring gas to the property. So the cost comparison is quite great there.
Wouldn't the challenge be too, you couldn't really test or do the borings where the existing school is, so there could be challenges once that school comes down and you start looking at where the borings could go, right?
Right, although I do think you could probably put a boring in almost anywhere in the site and determine, I think you're basically trying to figure out how much heat can you get from that boring, and they're 500 feet down into the ground, and I don't think there's probably a tremendous variation from one side of the site to the other.
Mhm.
But ideally, that test boring that you put in becomes a boring that you use. It's
Right.
one of your 100 borings, but you could probably put it in proximity to the school. And likewise, if we went ahead in one of the scenarios where we're looking at doing the borings in the lower field, that would remove that field from use during construction, or part of the construction duration for the school. There wouldn't be any field to play on, there'd be no parking for the school, and there'd be a second area of construction separate from the area that we're isolating, which then complicates keeping the construction away from the school operations. So there seem to be too many hurdles in this scenario.
I'm taking this as a no.
Yeah.
Get to the bottom line.
Yeah. And I've spent a lot of time really trying to figure this out, because I felt it was really important that we fully understood what the options were. Because I think it's a system that's valuable in a different site. And again, I think a future school project or town construction project, one should go through the evaluation all over again. I also think I'd like to have a conversation with the energy modeler up at Eversource and just review the project one more time and fully understand what the recommendations are from their point of view. But so I think based on that, we decided that geothermal is not going to be the direction to go for the project.
Thank you for doing that work.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of detailed work.
But I think so. I don't know if that's something we should vote on, or we vote on. But that's sorry. I wanted to bring that to the attention of the committee. But otherwise, and I welcome input from everybody else who's been attending these meetings. It seems like SLAM has done a really great job responding to any concerns we've raised. They've met the programmatic needs that we've put to them. I think what they've come up with is really quite exciting, and in particular at the past phone call we had, they showed some designs of the interior courtyard and how that's beginning to develop, and that's becoming this really dynamic, interesting space that for outdoor teaching and fresh air, and a place where they collect the stormwater and put it into rain gardens. And so I think it's a really dynamic, exciting learning space that's going to be something special and new that the school's going to have. So I think the whole project is really moving in a good direction.
Fantastic.
So would you add anything to that, Nick or Katie or Rusty, or do you guys have been?
No, I think that,
Good.
No, it's a good summary.
great summary. Thanks for all the work, especially on the geothermal and the schematic design meetings that I've been part of. I mean, a lot of intense conversations down to inches in terms of what happens when something's moved in terms of light and access, and the elevation conversation too around where the school needs to be, which I think we'll get an update on. So I think it's been a great process. I think they've listened. I think they truly understand what the administration and at the school and the broader district are looking for in terms of a next generation school. I really think they've worked with us to understand that and given us ideas and thoughts that we might not have come up with as we go through this process. Good. Thank you, Diane. Rusty, discuss the distance around the proposed school in the existing construction period.
Last couple of weeks has been a game of inches. But I think we're finally all in agreement on the MU zone. It took a little back and forth, and Jeremy came in and finally decided, okay, this is it, and he's asked us to follow that zone. An important piece of distance from a construction point of view is where are we from the distance from the actual old school to where the new construction's going, as it's currently laid out to the west, where we thought we had a problem. We don't have a problem. We now have 51 feet, which is more than enough to allow construction to take place on a normal basis. And to the north, which is the, where to describe where it is, it's where it's to the north of where the demolition is going to be. We have a minimum of 16 and a half, 17 feet, which is well within the 10 to 12 feet that they really require. So that, I think, has been addressed, and we can move forward from that.
Okay. Good, thank you. Next up, construction timetable, O&G's proposal for foundations during site preparation phase. Rusty, Nick,
Yes.
Dave?
If you look at the calendar as it stands now, we are looking at completion of construction in mid-August of 2022. That's simply not going to work. You need time to get the COs, you need time to deliver furniture and move it in, the teachers need a week or two to set up their classrooms. It's not possible. So we have tasked SLAM and O&G to figure out how to address that need. They have been discussing that this week particularly. They're not quite ready to make a presentation to us at this point, because remember, you change one little thing, it has a domino effect. And are the resources available in those two firms to make it happen, particularly SLAM, because you've got to have construction documents. Because what we're talking about is going out to bid in April, next April, which is early, on site work and concrete, pouring the footings and the foundation, and possibly steel. And in order to do that, that's compressing the time 2 months. There may be some ways we can compress the design process a little bit, but a lot of that's going to rely on their ability to get that done, because we do not want to sacrifice the quality of the specifications and drawings at all. We just can't, particularly if you're going to do this. This is non-traditional in terms of the state. The state, you have to go with all of it at once through the different phases, and to get your go-ahead to put out the bid, it all has to be done. We're asking them to do it in 2 phases, not 1. We believe that there's an opportunity. I think they'll listen to us. First of all, they seem to like us and believe in us and trust us, because what they don't want to happen is they're approving those 2 or 3 segments and then us come back later on. They don't want to see that. So we got a lot of work to do. SLAM particularly has a lot of work to do between now and then to make that happen. What that will enable us to do, as soon as school closes down in the middle of June, boom, you're out there. You're demoing the stuff that needs to be demoed, you're grading the site, you're doing all that stuff, and they're prepping for all the concrete and ordering the steel, etc. But again, it's a big change from where we are. We want to allow O&G and SLAM ample time to make sure they can do it, and what is it going to mean in terms of the rest of the activities, and if there's additional resources needed, what will it cost? Now, if you're concerned about additional resources needed, costs, We really would save that at the end because the project itself would be finished earlier. And so it's kind of a wash. It's just compressing the time period. So that's where we are. As soon as we've gone through it with them, we'll let everybody know. But it's not a question of if we're going to do it. It's more how we're going to do it because we literally have no choice if we're to open that school on time.
So Rusty, if either the architects and engineers came back or the state came back and just didn't accept that, and we were forced to go with a conventional process of bidding everything at once, would that mean we'd have to come to terms with a December opening date on the school, or?
It could, but and again, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, we haven't discussed it yet. You got to double up on the construction. But see, it also leaves a gap. There's a 2-month gap in September and October, if you read the current schedule, where they were going to be doing some demolition and site work or demolition this summer, and then do nothing in September and October till the bids go out and come back. That's the problem. You got idleness sitting there. So we haven't gotten, we want to see where they're coming from first.
Okay.
O&G has touched base, not directly, indirectly with the state. And the person that they talked to felt that there was an opportunity there, that they would certainly listen if we came and rationalized it and showed them as everybody was on board with it, which is key. And it's to their benefit too, because they like to tell us, for those of you who've been to the meetings, it's their money too. That's the way they view it. Even though it's a small part of it, it's their money. They don't want us to spend excess money either. So, we'll see what happens.
Mike, and Luke, what's your optimal window to say, here are the keys, and get everything moved into a new school and set up and ready for school, weeks or months?
I've done it in the past in 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
That's provided all furniture and equipment are on site, ready to go, right?
Yeah.
In the
Painters
move.
are out of the building, stuff like that. The floors are all in, and
Yeah.
we can
3, yeah.
final cleaning and finishing of all the floors, bringing in the furniture, uncrating it, setting it in the rooms. Yeah, 3 weeks.
It also, you talk about the domino effect, another key element to this to consider is the furniture. Every school in America wants delivery of furniture in July, June, July, right? It's a 6-week window there.
True. Okay.
What that means is the manufacturers are all cranking out, and that is why, historically, they're late with deliveries. They just can't handle it, plain and simple. And if we can actually get delivery of the furniture, and we did get the okay from the building department to get delivery of that furniture even in April or May, and get the buildings empty. And when it's appropriately set up, we can set it up very early, and we will be assured of getting our furniture, as opposed to a lot of schools every year who don't.
Couldn't you just take delivery and warehouse it until you need it? I mean, there's some
In the middle
expense with that, but it solves the delivery.
In the middle school, what we did is we put it in the 2 gymnasiums.
Okay,
That works too.
that was fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
The gymnasium here isn't quite as big, and there are 2 of them, but yes, you could.
Okay, good.
I think it's also important to note, there's a lot of activity between the finish of construction and turnover to
Sure.
the facilities department. That has to be taken into account, which we want to optimize the time for that, because it always gets shortchanged in the back end.
Infamous punch list.
Optimally, school gets out June 15th, June 16th, demo. That's what's really optimal.
Can we do June 15th at 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
I was thinking like 1
Daylight
a.m. I mean, it's going to be a mad scramble.
Take advantage of daylight savings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. All right, Rusty, thank you. I'm not sure with Kip under the flu bug.
I talked to Kip yesterday.
Good, so a quick update on progress with Eversource and the natural gas to Oxford School?
Yep. Does everybody know who Ed Gentile is? Okay. He talked with Eversource this week. And there's some real interest in running gas to this school and also, what's the other school, Royal?
Right.
And so they are actually looking at this.
Okay.
This could be. Apparently, the last time they were running gas lines in town, they wanted to do that to Royal. But they had just gotten a new oil burner and a new oil tank, and they didn't want the little expense, a little bit short-sighted probably, but that's Monday morning quarterbacking. But there is a great deal of interest by Eversource, so they're looking at the feasibility, and Ed has raised his hand to be another volunteer to help focus in on this gas issue, because of course timing is critical.
Well, I'm sure it just expands the availability to the neighborhoods, not just the schools. I mean, it's a win-win
Yeah.
all the way around from a town perspective. Right? Good. Very good.
Eversource modeling.
Yeah, Eversource program energy modeling, Rusty.
Yeah, the first step has been completed, which is the contracts from SLAM and ourselves, and the modeler have been signed and are in Eversource's hands, so they have, late last week, they pushed the button, get on with the modeling. I'm going to be pushing them on this area because there's certain parts of this area which can impact the design of the building. And we should be seeing something in the next couple of weeks. Should. This is Eversource. But I'm hopefully that they can do it. They seem very excited with us simply because it's an opportunity possibly to develop a net zero school. But we'll see. It's moving.
Thoughts or questions around that, the modeling?
Yeah, so I guess that, I assume that SLAM has worked closely with Eversource in the past, so they're providing the updated drawings and working with them on the model.
Amy and I still have to get together on the coordination with Eversource and what they're doing and the commissioning agent and to make sure that our high-performance building standards are met. She knows that, I know that, we just haven't meshed that together.
Yeah. And I do think, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but I do think keeping the door open for net zero energy for the project, considering the extent of solar we're putting on the roof and all the thermal properties that's going into the building envelope and the systems that are going in, I think it's really exciting. I mean, we have to get very close to that with the high performance building standards. So I think considering to push to that goal could be very exciting and could be a kind of win-win, I think, in terms of the cost of the building long-term. The reduction in energy use and the reduction in bills for the town will be substantial. So, and I think that is part of the discussion, is the financial model as
The
well.
financial model is certainly part of it. We can't do anything crazy, but sometimes you have to do things that aren't upfront. Your return on investment or your payback period isn't exactly what you want, but you got to look at it as in total. This is why I think we should not vote on geothermal at this point, because you never know.
Yeah. So with that, yeah, if the natural gas has not become an option, I think geothermal might be given more consideration. I don't think so, but you never know. Yeah.
I am having a conference call with the Green Bank tomorrow to see what kind of money they've got available for the PV and the alternate energy side, and how to do it, how best to get that. Unfortunately, they're not the incentives that they were, but we'll see what we can get. They did indicate there's some flexibility, much like Eversource did, which is good.
Yeah, again, I think Eversource had thought of a net zero school, which they don't have in their portfolio yet, got them very enthused, and they seem to suggest that they would put more resources towards our school should we go in that direction, so I think.
Didn't I tell you Mike offered to put a wind solar thing on his house? Help with the school? No?
Next to his
Boards under my house, I'm gonna connect to it.
Put the boars in your field underneath the ponies. Keep them warm in the winter. Good. All right. Thank you, Rusty. Diane, I think the next agenda item, you gave the update on the geothermal energy. Anything else we want to discuss or put on the table at this point in time?
I can mention the
Sure.
the OPR, the owner's project requirements.
Yeah.
We completed that last week, consolidated answers with SLAM and CES, have submitted that to SES, the commissioning agent, and they're compiling the final draft for
Great.
review.
Okay.
So, when it's issued,
They're going to send that around to
Yeah.
everybody?
Okay.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank Nick for stepping in and taking that role on.
The ultimate questionnaire. Right. Good. All right. Any other updates, thoughts, questions?
Just
Katie?
one other thing.
Sure.
Diane and I reached out to the town health department. We have a meeting with them next week just to go over some of the regulations to better understand exactly what we might be allowed to do and what we wouldn't be in terms of food service at the school.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll stay in touch with Amy and the
Slam.
SLAM, yeah, Amy Samuelson at SLAM and the kind of food service committee and consultant, and
Okay.
keep them abreast of what we've learned to keep that moving.
Good. The Board of Ed is moving forward with contracting with an outside vendor as the existing person retires. And then we'll go through that whole process of, the Board of Ed will look at that whole process of outsourcing that or looking at what's the best bet in terms of a vendor and accomplish some other goals in the district in terms of food and recyclables and different things like that. It's a good opportunity.
And when do you think that relationship will be established? Because I think the next meeting of that group is intended to be after schematic design.
There's a consultant coming on
Yeah,
as a contracted person
to manage
at
it.
the end of the month.
Okay,
And then they'll do the bid process to award, a full contract out.
okay, so
We'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah,
I'll get
so-
you the name of the person. If
by
you
the end of
want.
schematic design,
Yeah.
that should be, yeah,
Would
that would
make
be
sense.
great, and because we'll have our next meeting after schematic
Okay.
design's over to go to the next step, so that's great.
Good.
So we'll try and learn as much as we can from the town, what,
Okay.
again, what's allowed.
Good. All right. Next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 7th at 7:30 a.m. here. Make a motion for adjournment and keep in line with our fearless leader, Kip, to keep these meetings moving and get everyone on their trains, planes, and automobiles.
Indeed.
Motion to adjourn. John, second. Mike, adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
I sent a thank you to Kip.